Let's see. Super fun time. I was thinking, oh, you know, get that.
All right, everyone. We have a lean group tonight. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes I think it's because when things are running smoothly, then people figure they're not going to fix something that's not broken. But we'll get started. And then Shelley, I've just made you co-host so that you can let people in if they arrive. No worries, Annette. We know who you are, lifetime member, Annette. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All right. All right, everyone. Welcome to the York Region Lions 2021 Annual General Meeting. I think we can probably get through this in an hour. We've got a small group, but hoping to have some good discussion and map out next steps for starting with winter season. We've got a pretty full agenda. This has been posted for a while online. So we'll get into the more interesting pieces at the end of the agenda. So a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. I will ask you to stay on mute. I will ask you to raise your hand to speak. And our Vice President, Michelle, is looking for people to raise hands who would like to speak to somebody, speak to something and ask questions. In addition, we are using the raise hand functionality to vote. It is 1 vote per family, 1 vote per coach, 1 vote per board member, except me. I'm only a tiebreaker. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the Zoom housekeeping? We've all been living it for 2 years, so that's a hard no. Right, got it. Okay. So I do this every year. I introduce our board. Our whole board isn't here, but I will introduce a couple of new positions that we've added to help coordinate. Myself, Jody Tavares, president of York Region Football, Michelle Trelford, who is our vice president, Warren Craney, who is our director of coaching and player development. We have Jen Fortier, who is our spring director, Antonella Cuchule, who is our fall director, Mike Fortier, who is our equipment director, and we have Jay Wilkinson, who is our health and safety officer, Michelle Buckridge, who is our game day engagement coordinator, and we have Shelley Wilkinson, who is our registrar. Oh my God, I think I just did that off by heart. That's amazing. So this has been a unique year in the number of hours that has been required by board members to pull off this season. Shout out to the board members for always showing up and being really creative and making sure that things could happen. All right. So now we're going to move into the approval of the 2020 minutes. That's an error on the slide. The 2020 minutes of the annual general meeting last year. These were posted on the website as of February 2021 for review. They haven't been downloaded very many times, but they've been downloaded a few times. And so I'm looking to the floor for a motion to approve the minutes, and then we'll look for a seconder. So can I get a motion? You can unmute to say that you will issue a motion.
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Mark. Shelley, that's Mark Bandato, motioning to approve. Can I get a seconder for the motion?
Jody,
I'll second. Annette raised her hand, but I'll second.
Okay, so Jason is going to second the motion. And now I say all in favor, and everybody can unmute and say yes. We're all in favor? Perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So
Yes.
Thank you. So our minutes have been passed from last year. Thank you so much. So let's talk about our 2021 year. A lot went on behind the scenes to get us onto the field. York Region, I think, had an outstanding year in that we played a pivotal role in getting us back on the field in some capacity. I spent a lot of time with the Minister of Sport, with our provincial sport organization, with York Region Public Health, with the Ministry of Health, working through various return to play strategies that would get us back on the field safely. Once York Region got something that was approved, we unlocked the document and sent it to every club in this province to use. Everything from a return to play to our screening process, to our field setup, to our supply lists, to different grants that we were leveraging to maybe help pay for some things, because we had a few increased expenses. But we played a significant role, which I think is great for our center and great for relationships with other clubs. We had an amazing sponsorship year. Just over $8,000 donated to the club that went straight back to the kids. We pivoted our program for sponsorship in that we were no longer asking for donations to go straight to the club. We were going to sponsors with actual requests for swag, for example, or to sponsors who were going to support our kids. So if we needed registration fees or something like that. So that was a huge success, and we are going to move forward with only seeking sponsorships that way. We found that if we speak to sponsors about exactly what we need and they know what they're spending their money on, they're happy to come forward. We had a great fall flag season. We had just over 100 flag players. And as many of you know, we ran the program just before the senior sessions. And it was a great leadership opportunity for our senior players to come and volunteer and coach the kids. So that was fantastic. We've already engaged 3 college students for film for the 2022 season, which is something we've always wanted to do to support students. Of course, they will be paid for their work, but they'll also be able to use us as a reference and use pieces of the film that they take and the promotional videos that they create in their own portfolios. This was our first year with co-op students. So Aurora High reached out to us. As many of you know, we lost a football player a few years ago from Aurora High. He was a Lion. I've remained in touch with Aurora High. They reached out, they had an opportunity with co-op students, and we are now fully in their rotation. We have done some work to try and reduce fees. You know, it was a difficult 2020 without being able to bring in income and still having commitments to equipment orders that we had already issued before the pandemic hit. And so we got creative with storage this year. We closed one of our storage containers, saving us, I think, probably $350 a month in storage fees. We are now using the bin that we have, the shipping container that we have at Huron Heights for the equipment we don't use often. We sold one of our jugs machines because who needs 2 jugs machines? We pivoted, as I said, we pivoted the way that we approach sponsorship. So that made sure that every kid in fall, for example, playing tackle got a long sleeve white athletic shirt, fully branded. And we eliminated the cost of uniforms for U16 and U18 age groups by working with York University to use their uniforms. We hosted our first ever flag football tournament this summer, which I can't say without laughing because none of us knew what we were getting into. And I don't know why we thought we would be done in 6 hours, but we hosted 2 other clubs that came down and played with us, and everyone had a lot of fun. And so that was a new experience, and we'll definitely do it again. And then a little bit more on the impact of the York University Adidas Tech Fit pants and jerseys. not only is it not only is it a cost reduction, but I think, we weren't expecting, we didn't know what we were going to get when we went into our first tackle season after COVID, but it was really nice. Like the boys had a really good feeling about having really nice uniforms and being able to wear, they're like the only community club taking the field in Adidas Tech Fit. So they were pretty jazzed about that. And we're really appreciative to York, not only for keeping their word in providing us with those uniforms, but when they had to quickly pivot the uniforms out in one night because a donor had requested that his uniforms be worn at a York U game, they ran us 100 more uniforms so that we could do the quick switch out. So that's been really fantastic. The only other thing that I'd want to add about our year in review is that I have to shout out to our volunteers again. The coaches that came forward, the managers that came forward, the board members that came forward, the parents that just volunteered because they were there. It was an outstanding year for people just lending a hand. And I think it's because we were all trapped in the house for so long and not able to access the field, that there was this great sense of community. And while maybe we weren't able to have a spring tackle program, and maybe not every team in fall had the season that it wanted, we did all come together to make sure that the kids had something this fall. And so I think it was a pretty fantastic year. Does anybody have any questions? That's a hard no. Okay, I'll move on. Money. Let's talk about money. So I mentioned that we reduced our administrative fees. We've taken a different approach with storage, so that saved us quite a bit of money. And we have focused our marketing to online. Social campaigns are far more cost effective than putting up signs, and we tend to reach younger families faster. Mike's done a fantastic job on the helmet recertifications. And so we've got a smaller order going out this year than we thought, which is great. We only have 97 helmets going out for recertification, so that's always nice. But we are replacing a large number of them. And we are set up financially to do that, thanks to our registrar that passed away in 2019. He did manage to tuck away quite a bit of money for us that carried us through 2020 and paid for those orders that we had made. We've had some marginal increases in terms of trainers and fields, but nothing that's catastrophic. So that's been okay. And I wouldn't say an increase in equipment because we haven't had to buy U16 or U18 uniforms, but we have had to buy flag supplies as our flag program grows. And as we learn to do different things with our flag program, we've had to invest in hundreds of flag belts, and we're going to have to invest in pennies next year, et cetera. So I'll give you a quick look at our financial position. This is as of November 30th, 2021. So our total expenses for this fiscal year were $59,051.85, which I think is fantastic. They will go up next year. We won't get as many COVID breaks on, fields, officials, trainers, membership costs to leagues, PSOs. We brought in a healthy income from fall tackle and our flag programs. So our total income was $69,627.50. We had some closing balances from the previous year in our bank accounts, which is $12,000 and change. So it actually leaves us going into the new year in a positive position of $22,756.65. We do have expenses that we are currently incurring now for our Winter Academy, but the Winter Academy is designed to pay for itself. It's not profitable, but it's designed to pay for itself. And so we're in a good position with this egg of 22,000, 23,000, where we can take on some of those expenses in early January. And by mid-January, when we clear fees for the Winter Academy, then we can start building that back up again. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Yeah.
Sort of a more of a point of order. So when Paul would do this every year, there was a very, I don't know the best way to put it, formalized way of doing the accounting.
Yeah.
That it was filed and that it was stamped and notarized and
Yeah.
copies were sent and filed. All that's still being done, right?
No, it's not. We don't have a treasurer. We haven't had a
Okay.
treasurer since Paul died.
So, yeah, so I guess the question was, is that something we should spend money on? Or is it something we
Probably
should?
could if we have a normal season where
Yeah.
we're bringing in our normal income. Our quote last year to have financial statements completed was $5,500, was the cheapest
Yeah.
one that we got. And
But that's, yeah, it's expensive, I know.
yeah,
But
absolutely,
I like,
we should.
yeah, okay, because I mean, Paul, even going back years and years pre-Lions and everything, Paul was there every year doing it. And there was like I don't know, I'm gonna call it a standard of excellence that was there. I'm fine with Excel spreadsheets. I think we're a small enough club to not have to worry about it, but as a point of, larger point of order.
To maintain our nonprofit status, this is all we need to have.
Yeah.
I think that we should have financial statements done. Absolutely. Could we do it in 2020 with no income? No. Could we do it in 2021 with almost no income, like without our standard spring tackle? No. Paul taught us that we needed at least 20,000 in the bank to start a season. And so we weren't going to lose our nonprofit status because of it. It wasn't urgent. Should we do it this year? Absolutely.
Do we have another Paul? Do we have another Paul in the Lions family?
We have been recruiting, trying desperately to find an accountant who will take this on.
Okay,
So believe me, Mark, if you find someone, send them our way, please.
will do.
Fletch, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is for the income, does that encompass, does that encompass the gate fees, the revenue brought in from different merchandise sold, and like, is there a breakdown for each one?
So a few things. There were no gate fees charged this year. So that's,
Okay.
don't see any gate fees here. And for marketing, we're sitting at a loss right now for the swag because it's not all sold yet. If you remember, the swag is actually designed to pay for itself. There's no, it doesn't make the club any money. We price it low so that kids wear it. We're sitting at about a $1,200 loss for swag because we've got about $1,200 in sweatshirts left that we still need to sell. So it doesn't really count as income because it's not designed to count as income. It's just designed to pay for itself, like the sponsorships. I'll give you an example. The
Okay. That was my other,
yeah,
that was my other question too. I don't see a sponsorship column
because
here.
it's
But
a
there is
straight.
there is one on the last year. Oh no, that was an expense. Sponsorship was an expense last year.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's a straight in and out for sponsorship. It's a straight in and out. And so I'll give you an example. Pratt Homes approached us to do a sponsorship for the kids. We said, great. How would you like to buy long sleeve white athletic shirts and put your logo on it for every kid in tackle for fall? And they said, that sounds great. Send us the invoice. It's a straight in and out. So our $8,000 in sponsorship was a straight in and out. It wasn't even money that was leaving the club. It was someone paying for stuff to give to our kids. York University spent about $3,000 buying hats for every kid. And so the sponsorship is a straight in and out. That's why it's not on here.
How much did York University spend on hats?
$3,000.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions? So I am going to need a motion to approve these statements.
Yeah, motion to
Looks
approve.
good to me, Jody. I'll motion to approve.
I'll second it, Jody.
So I think that was Jason motioning and Annette seconding. Okay, thank you so much. And is everyone in favor, or does anyone have any more questions? I'm honestly happy to answer questions. All good. As a point of information, just so everyone on the call knows, since we haven't had a poll, none of us, the board agreed that it wasn't appropriate for one person to take on the position, like an existing board member who's in a position to take on a second position that our constitution requires to be an accountant. And so Michelle, Jen, and I have been acting as the treasurer. And so the three of us sign checks so that there's three people looking at it. The three of us go through the check register. The three of us are uploading invoices and approving invoices. So there's three sets of eyes just until we can find a parent that is also an accountant that will take on the volunteer position. Okay, thank you. If there's no question, I'm just going to move on. All right, so let's talk through our constitution changes. There's three of them that we have proposed. Per our constitution, these were provided in advance on our website. I'm happy to talk through each of them. I will call for a motion to approve the constitution change and a seconder. And then all in favor, I will ask you to use your reaction buttons to raise your hands so that Shelley can count them, just so that we can have a record of constitution changes being approved or not approved. And I'm happy to answer any questions on these that may come up, but they may be obvious. So Constitution Update 1 is an actual addition. We want to add to Article 8, specifically 8.1.A.6, that a director shall not be a head coach of a high school football team. The past 2 years have been unique in the pressure directed at this club to align with one high school football team. And we can't do it. We have to stay Lions. And when kids come to play with us, they have to be Lions. And I'm happy to have anyone in our club support every single high school football program. But the board came together and drafted this particular update to avoid having head high school football coaches on the board. If you're an assistant coach or you're a coordinator, that's fine. But a head coach on the board, being in charge of resources, being able to make decisions. As most of you know, our board stores everything in the cloud. And so having access to our insurance certificates and our roster of trainers and those kinds of things. And so that's why this one is being suggested. Go ahead, Sean.
Can I make a motion for amendment to make that not just a head coach then? Why don't you extend that to anyone on the football coaching team of a high school?
You know,
Because it's easy enough to say for somebody to say, I'm not the head coach anymore, I'm just the offensive coordinator. Just kind of like Mark. He never was the head coach. It was really me. I was kidding, Mark. But no, so once again, amendment to change that to state not just the head coach,
but
in
any
fact,
coach of a
state.
high school football team. That's what
Right.
you're suggesting. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, my only thing was, and I don't know the wording of this, the only thing I had is there the possibility to consider a timeline on this? so that it's not a permanent change to the Constitution. Hypothetically speaking, it's not a club that we're familiar with. Newmarket High launches a new program in 2 years. They have a fantastic group of people who are in the best interest of the community, and we have locked out talent because we've made a unilateral decision, as opposed to, for the next 3 years, for the foreseeable future, like time limiting this somehow. Otherwise, we're changing the Constitution like my vote on this, because of the underlying issue. And I mean, it's the elephant in the room. We're all friends here. We don't have to mince words. We can be professionals about it, or we can put our cards on the table. We all know why this is put in. I think we all agree it's a good idea. Just the finality of it, to me, may limit someone who were to come into town and is a fantastic talent. And we've set up a rule to block the Lions, Hurons issues that we deal with, which for now are in a capsule. But, I'm just thinking of Crothers. We've got players there, people that are involved with Crothers.
Yeah.
They're not giving us the same sort of challenges and issues that Huron is. Are we locking out Jamie Grable from coming back if he's a head coach?
Yes, we would be.
As an example, okay? So there's the Kings old guys, there's Gaudio, it seems a sweeping directional change that I will vote yes for, but it also seems potentially limiting down the road.
So Mark, let me respond to your, because we did talk as a board about time limits, but we're also bound, because we're a nonprofit, to follow Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary rules of order. And so we weren't able to propose a time limit. The suggestion in Robert's Rules of Order is you make a change to the Constitution, and if you need to change the Constitution, you do it at a meeting of the members. And it doesn't have to be an AGM, but you do have to give them 30 days notice, and then hold a special meeting where your quorum shows up, you make quorum, and then you just change the Constitution, but you don't time limit a piece in the Constitution.
Okay.
But I hear you. I hear you. And Sean, I'm going to get to your point, like about the motion to change the wording, but I just want to hear from everybody else who's raised their hands. So I wasn't watching who raised hands first.
Annette had her hand raised first. Sorry to interrupt you, Jody. Annette, did you still have a question?
It was actually, I just wanted to make the comment that this constitution can always be changed at a later date if it needs to be. And that it says a head coach, and it's keeping them away from being a board member. It's not keeping them away from volunteering, helping coach or anything like that, correct?
Well, let's wait till we get to the, we're trying to, we'll wait till we get to another constitution.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just, we have found it very difficult to maintain neutrality when it's a head coach. Coordinators, assistant coaches, it really hasn't been an issue. But the neutrality has posed an issue from a few high schools, not just one, although one stands out, a few high schools, to maintain neutrality and the desire to use club resources.
Yeah.
And that's not even that's not having a position on the board.
Yeah.
And you're like, these are our helmets. Like, what are you talking about? And so that's why it's there. Okay, I'll stop now. Who is next? Jen?
Can I mute myself? I did not. Okay, so I guess I'm kind of addressing Sean and Mark at the same time, but I just wanted to say, like, part of the reason why I was standing behind this Constitution update isn't necessarily to block one high school over the other, but the board has been working on bringing or bringing football back to a lot of the high schools and encouraging more high schools. And it's more for me as a perceived conflict of interest that if we have one or two coaches on our board, that it's perceived that we're feeding those two schools over the other schools that are just coming in with football programs, either new or or re-entering, more than it just being like one high school right now that is currently running. Like, I think we've kind of counted that there's hopefully another 4 high schools starting their programming soon. So to me, that's kind of where I'm taking this kind of update from. It's not necessarily a direct conflict, more as a perceived conflict of interest for our members or other community members that aren't with the club that are like, I want my kid to play, but I don't necessarily feel that this club is for all the high schools if we're not in that catchment area. So that's kind of where I am. And Sean, I really like the idea of other members of the coaching staff, but I don't really understand the positionings of all the other coaching staff either. So I don't know if someone can explain the hierarchy of that part.
Well, I mean, Sean can probably speak to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to high school football. So what happens is you get a lot of volunteers. So let's say Newmarket High starts a program and they need coaches, and they come to Mark and Mark and I are like, yeah, we can help you coach. And when you go to a game, you're going to see Mark and I heavily involved, but we're technically not the official coach. And it could be something like, and I've seen this, where it's a drama teacher who's on the sidelines and is on the roster as the official coach, but isn't really involved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's like acting.
Right. But
the head coach is actually the person with the influence.
right. Yes, the head coach is the one who
title.
actually relays the information, makes the decisions, and tells the kids if they want to kick or receive at the beginning of the game, right? But the head coach on paper is the drama teacher or whoever else on the sidelines who's only there on paper just so your school has a program. That actually happens a lot in certain, like I know for a fact Felon Falls does that. So having said that, if somebody wants to get around the rules, all they have to say is, I'm not the head coach, I'm the offensive coordinator. However, I do tell the head coach what to do, to the point where they don't even speak up. I speak for them because my voice is louder. Like, that's how easy it is to get around that. That's what I would do if I wanted to get around that rule.
That's a good point. Thank you. It's a good point. Jen, does that answer your question?
It does, and it actually brings a lot to light, because I'll be honest, I didn't think of any of that. So I kind of like the suggestion that Sean's making for
I'm
the
going to
amendment.
bring up the motion again once the discussion is done.
Okay.
I'm ignoring your motion, Sean. I'm going to call it again when everyone's hands are. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, the last point is just an aside to sort of a look back. At one time at the AGMs, there was, 30 people at an AGM, and on the board were 4 of the head coaches from high schools around. So Masterson was on the board, Frank, when he was involved at Crothers, this one. So again, I'm saying it's easy, like for you said, point of order, to switch the constitution back if the landscape changes in the region. Yeah. I would just say the evil moniker we are putting on head coaches who are not neutral was not always the case, and having head coaches who run large programs with experience on the board is a valuable thing to consider should we need to go the other way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, that's all.
Thank you for that, Mark. Annette, go ahead.
High schools actually often have to have a teacher as a coach, as a head coach in that position. So what Sean was saying is quite true. They will put whatever teacher there is, as long as there's a physical teacher in that position, but they aren't calling any of the shots. It's the other people underneath them that do.
Thank you. Okay, so okay, and that's hands down, no hands up. So Sean, if it's okay, I'm gonna test out wording of the motion you're proposing. So you're proposing a motion, you're putting forward a motion to change the wording of the text to read, a director shall not be a member of a high school football team's coaching staff. Is that correct?
Yes, that's pretty much sums it up.
Okay. So, Shelley, did you get that? Do you want me to repeat it?
She says yes.
Okay. A director shall not be a member of a high school football team's coaching staff. And so Sean has issued the motion. We need a seconder for the motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jay. And then if you are in favor, please use the reaction button to raise your hand so Shelley can count them. And then we can get this into the Constitution. Sean, thank you so much for the suggestion. Okay, we're passed. Thanks. Let's move on to Constitution update number 2. All right. So this one's about continuity. We're proposing an addition to Article 9, specifically 9.6, on who can run for the president position. I implemented this in the fall league, and it saved us when, for those of you that don't know, there was a mass exodus from the fall leagues board when we got the go-ahead to play tackle in fall. And the Constitution had been set up in a way that anybody could come into the president position. And that posed a risk for the league. And I think it poses a risk for any center. And so the text that we're proposing is that no representative from the association's membership is eligible to be elected to the position of president unless the member has previously served, defined as in the past 2 years, at least 1 year as a voting member of the board of directors, so that they know stuff. You can run for any other position sort of just coming in, but the leadership position is a problem because you have to represent the league, you have to represent the club at the league level and with the PSO. So that was the proposal. I see hands raised. I see Sean first, so I'm going to ask Sean to go ahead.
Okay, can you elaborate? What was, you said there was to save the league. It was
No,
a problem.
it protected the
Or
league.
protected the league.
Yeah, as an example. Well, there
The
were,
league or the club?
so this came in handy at a league.
At the league level. Okay, I just realized what
was-
you just said. I'm
It
sorry.
was brought to the club
Okay.
because it wasn't part of our constitution. And what almost happened at the league level, Sean, is that someone who runs like a sports swag company tried to come in as president of the league so they could probably redirect contracts. Not really knowing any history of the league or knowing what the positions are or what the goals of the league are, or knowing anything about the football landscape. And so we talked about it as a board, about putting something in to ensure some consistency for just for the president role, because you have the ability to represent the club externally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I was just, my question first came out before I realized you said league and it wasn't at the
That's
club
okay.
level. So
It's
I
okay, it's
apologize
okay.
for that.
No, it's okay. If something had gone
however-
on at the club level, I
All right,
would.
I'll let Annette go and then I'm gonna raise my hand again.
Okay, go ahead, Annette.
This is quite common standard practice in most sports boards. I'm stunned that this wasn't already in place. It's an excellent idea, definitely.
Yeah, it's hockey a lot has this.
Yeah, and I sit on the hockey board for Aurora Minor Hockey, and yeah, definitely a must-have. We even have it for the VP positions. Nobody
wow.
can be a VP or a president. Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, go ahead.
Okay, I'm worried that this is not the time for this. As you see, we have barely anybody in this meeting. This is supposed to be the annual general meeting, and we have what, 7, 8 people in. My question is, I'm wondering, did people get discouraged because of the email that went out?
What do you mean discouraged?
Um,
What was in the email?
well, the email that went out
Mhm.
stated this fact. So how many people decided there could have been someone who wanted to say run or be nominated and they didn't because they saw this and said, well, I don't qualify.
Oh, for the president
And
position.
they could have been a president or a parent of a player for like at least 5 seasons.
Yeah. So it's a really good point. But I think that the board was unanimous in weighing on the side of protecting the club versus protecting people's feelings. A parent who's been really active in the club for 5 years, but hasn't held a board position at all, probably shouldn't step into a president position, knowing what it takes to run the club from the president's position. We did consult with a former president on this before we put it here, because his concern was the same thing when he was leaving the role, to make sure that there was somebody who was being trained up into the position. We've had challenging numbers since 2019 for AGMs, and we have a lot of parent engagement and interaction at the field. They don't show up at the AGM. I'm not sure why. And we've asked them why. And they're like, it's all fine. It's all good. I don't need to go. When we go out to recruit board members, with the exception of the treasurer position, it's quite easy. We have a pretty full board. And so it's not that people don't want to engage. I'm just not sure why they're not coming. And so I hear your point that it might not be the time for this, but we've had challenging numbers at the AGM since 2019. And so I'm myself and the board are weighing on the side of protecting the club, because I mean, I'm not going to be here forever, and people on this board are not going to be here forever. And we want to ensure that whoever takes over the helm has at least been on the board and has learned what people's positions are, so that the club is sustainable. I'm just trying to answer your question, not convince you. I'm just trying to answer it.
No, exactly. You're not going to convince me, but all right, with that's the answer. And this is what the current board wants right now.
Michelle, you have your hand up too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to reiterate that it is only the president's position that you would have to have been on the board sometime in the last 2 years for at least a year. And it's not succession planning by any stretch of the imagination. Sorry to say this at the annual general meeting, the current vice president does not want to be at the helm of this club, because there are so much more qualified members of our board and our audience that can absolutely do a better job. But it's like Jody said, it's continuity, right? Someone who knows the club, who has been an active member of the board, because we have all kinds of engagement at the field, like Jody said. Like, I mean, Sean, you noticed, I'm sure, as well, from a coaching perspective, knowing the field versus knowing the board, entirely different ballgames. Even being on the board, it's not always, you don't necessarily realize how the club runs until you're in a different position. That's all.
I can't see if there are any other hands raised that would like to discuss this. Everyone's shaking their head no, so I'll just trust you. So I will ask for a motion to approve this constitution update.
I'll put a motion forward.
Thanks, Annette. And a seconder, please.
I'll second.
Thanks, Michelle. And then I will ask you, anyone who's in favor, I will ask you to use the reaction buttons to raise your hands. Just so Shelley can count them. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, now we get to the good one.
Can I have it? Can I have it
Oh.
on record that I was not in favor?
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely. Shelley, for
Thank you.
Constitution update number 2, Sean Fletcher was not in favor.
So
Go ahead. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought somebody was starting to speak, so I was opening the floor to speak, but I'm going to move on to Constitution update number 3. This one, we spent a whole board meeting on, especially after observing our fall tackle season. As many of you know, there are only really 2 leagues now for football. I mean, NCAFA aside, there's one fall league and one spring league now to participate in, and both of those leagues have pretty stringent rules on recruiting. We always want to feed into high school football programs, but we don't want to create a situation at the field where coaches are recruiting for their high school and encouraging kids to move. And it's not only one high school that does it. There's a number of high schools across the province that do it. And we want to make sure that we keep things as neutral as we possibly can. And so the change that we're proposing to Article 10, specifically 10.10, is to add text that says, it is the duty of the Board of Directors to maintain neutrality with high school football programs and to ensure that no high school football head coach is named to a YRFA head coach position for the following age groups: U14 Bantam, U16 Junior Varsity, and U18 Varsity. Go ahead, Jason.
sorry, I'm just thinking from the previous one that Fletch mentioned above, we
Yeah.
should add that wording into this as well. Because the head coach is a drama teacher, but if the defensive line coach becomes head coach, then we run into the same problem as the first Constitution update.
Jason, can you issue a motion to change the wording to reflect Constitution Update 1?
I put that motion forward now.
Okay, perfect. So let's hang on to the motion and then we're gonna talk and then we'll bring the motion up again. Fletch, you had your hand up.
Actually, point of order, we should vote on that motion before carrying on with anything else.
No, actually, that's not. We have to have the discussion about it first and then.
Okay, discussion about that motion, yes.
Yeah,
But we can't discuss anything else part of this motion, this
nope,
article
No.
until we get that motion taken care of.
yep,
That's what I'm saying. Yes, we're saying the same thing.
okay, great.
I have not, yeah,
Okay.
everything I said earlier, I will reiterate now.
Okay, no problem. Does anybody have any questions or wants to discuss anything that Jay just mentioned with his motion? Okay. Oh, wait, Jen, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Mark mentioned before about how we might be restricting our talent pool.
Yeah.
And so how can we
Mhm.
make this work? So that we have these coaches without, it's so hard. Conflict of interest really sucks. So how do we use these coaches' talents
Right.
without, we can't. Dang it. Never mind. I'm good.
Well,
We're
I mean, there might be a way, like there, maybe the wording is no high school football head coach or someone who acts as a head coach. Like there's a way to word it. I don't know. And that, go ahead. You look like you're going to burst. Go ahead.
What we're saying is they can't be the head coach. We're not
Yes,
saying they
that's it.
can't be an assistant coach. They can't be, they can still be an offensive coordinator, they can be a defensive coordinator, they
Yes.
can be whatever, but they can't be the head coach and have the total authority. So that kind of encompasses, we're not giving up on any high school coach. They just can't be a head coach for those age groups because it's a straight conflict of interest. They're going to be recruiting for they're going to try and they're going to only, let's say we go back to the old days where we actually had to cut players because we had so many kids come out. They're only going to bring their players in from their high school.
Mhm.
So if they don't have the authority of a head coach, then it brings neutrality to it, which is what we
Right.
want. That's all.
Thanks, Annette. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, just Annette, on that point, I think I agree, but there needs to be more neutrality behind head coach. And I'll give you a for instance from our team. Our defensive coordinator was Brian. I don't know if you guys know Brian, Big Brian K. Rode his motorcycle every time. So Big Brian K was awesome. He's not a head coach at Huron. He was a coordinator on our staff who absolutely was the voice of Heath on our field. So by this bylaw, Brian's cool because he's not the head coach. He's not the head coach of our team. That was Fulton. And yet it was no different having him on the field as if Heath was standing there whispering in his ear. So I agree with you, Annette, that there needs to be that air of impropriety. But if you don't, so in my book is much in the way kids can't play, quote unquote, for a high school, their coach will tell them, don't play for the Lions or you're not playing for me. Do we draw a line? Do we draw a line and say, if you're going to coach with Crothers or you're going to coach with Huron, you can't really coach on our staffs because there is no air of impropriety or air of delineation of responsibility. I like everybody. I'm more to the other side. I'm happy to have coaches who know what they're doing on the field, but we have to respect the idea that it's not. And again, Annette, I know how long you guys have been involved in the club, and you've seen it from every high school, going back to, to the King City days and the big battles that went on, and Masterson on the board and all of that. So I get all of that, but there's only so many good coaches out there that live within an arm's reach of us that we can take. So I'm a little bit torn between how do we word this? How do we word this, or what is the decision we make on how we share that talent? That was all I was going to put up there.
We don't have anything in our constitution about recruiting. I'm just gonna leave that with everyone. Annette, do you want to speak again? Go ahead.
Mark, great point. But in that situation, your head coach should have stepped up and put the other assistant coach, like toned him down, right? And not always easy, and I get it 100%. In the real world, that doesn't always work, but theoretically, that's how it should work. The head coach is the head coach, and they should be able to maintain a semblance amongst their coaching staff. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened.
I'm sorry that happened too, because we recruited Brian as a coach. He was a Lions coach for a year before he was.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. You have your hand up.
My only hand up point was, and that's right. The real world and the paper world isn't the same, because we recruited Brian as one of our guys, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then when they realized he was good, it doesn't work two directions. So a kid who came out to our team, who said to Jody at one point, Coach Mark and Coach Fletch and being on those teams helped me love football again.
Yeah.
Immediately, when Brian became the defensive line coach at Huron, came to us and said, I can no longer come out for the Lions. That's a decision his family made. That's fine. But there were 4 kids that we started the season with that went when the coach left. The parent who came to help us coach moved his kid to Huron on that direction, and we lost him too. So now I'm fighting up an uphill battle going, well, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we trying to recruit and invest into the family if we're allowing the fox in the hen house, so to speak, and then just kind of allowing it to go on and going, oh, well, it doesn't always work out that way. So again, I don't know if it's a constitutional thing. I don't know. This makes perfect sense to me to vote on. I'm not making this the point. I'm just, as a larger group that's involved, saying, the kind of club has to pick a lane somewhere down the road to say, how do we fit into the landscape here? Right. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fletch, go ahead.
This only really affects the fall league, though, does it not? It doesn't really affect the spring summer league.
It would affect the summer as well, because York U only coaches the U18 team. U16 and U14 would still be wide open.
Right.
And we don't.
But the high school's not running in the spring summer unless they have their little camps or they have their little trips that they all end up mysteriously ending up on the same one.
It doesn't matter. They shouldn't be recruiting.
Right.
From, like, you should go to the high school that you're in the catchment area for.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Right.
When Hagen switched high schools, we moved into the catchment area, right? And this has been the number one concern about working with high schools to bring back their high school football programs, is that, what can be put into place in the Constitution to limit the recruiting. And so we don't have anything in the Constitution on recruiting, but we know what we've seen in these age groups with those head coaches. To your point, Mark, that's why I was saying, like, there maybe we need something about recruiting as well, that at a coaches meeting can be discussed as a standard, that of course we want kids to play high school football. Of course we do. But we want them to go to their high school in their catchment area. And we want to stop raising down high school football programs to feed one program. Jen and then Annette.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I saw your hand.
Sorry. It's all good.
Okay. Annette, go ahead.
In response to that, it definitely does affect spring. In previous years, it has definitely affected the spring, where players were not allowed to play in the spring because they were part of certain high school teams, and it didn't seem to matter. Yeah, it definitely does affect spring as well. Just in answer to your comment, Sean, it has happened, and I'm sure it still does to some extent. I know of players that were refused a weight room in the spring because they wanted to come out and play for the Lions. Well, we weren't the Lions. Yeah, we were the Lions then. Anyway.
We were Lions that year.
Yeah, and I think we definitely do need to discuss something maybe in the Constitution about no coaching staff allowed to recruit for a high school team in the future.
I'll ask you for a motion after we've dealt with Jay's motion. Sean, go ahead.
I move to vote on this motion.
So Jay, your original motion was to align this Constitution update with the first one. So I'm just going to test it out with you. You can tell me if this is what you meant. It is the duty of the Board of Directors to maintain neutrality with high school football programs and to ensure that no high school football staff member is named to a YRFA head coach position for the following age groups. Is that what you mean?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
I would defer to Sean
So
and Mark
Jen
as
is-
the more experienced people in the wording of all of that to
So Jen is raising her hand to speak to it. So go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, Jody, you just said high school football staff, and it should just say, sorry, you just said high school staff, and it should be high school football coaching staff.
Coaching staff. Got it. Okay. Shelley, do you want me to repeat it back? And then maybe Mark and Fletch can weigh in on what I say.
no, she says she's all good.
Okay, so Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that was the one. There was a word in there. Again, this is maybe semantics, but if we're saying high school coaching staff.
Yeah.
Can't be named to a head coaching position. Okay, yep, that's fine. Sorry, just had to hear it back again.
No, it's okay. I didn't say it right the first time. So yeah,
No,
absolutely.
you did. It was just, I was thinking for the head coaching position, not for another coaching position.
Yeah, it's just for the head coaching position. Sean, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna wait till after this vote to make another motion to amendment, but we might as well mix these in together.
Okay.
What about the under 12 team? It's not included in there,
No, it's not. Nor is the U10, nor is the U8.
right?
In-
Does U10, does it travel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, does it? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so yeah, I just want to make note that there's only 3 teams there, or
Yeah,
3 age levels.
absolutely. So we sat down with the York University coaching staff on this, and we sat down with a past president on this just to get some external, like nothing against our board, but to get like some football coaches like talking to us who actually recruit and who recruited for high schools that they may have coached at. And all of them unanimously agreed that U8, U10, U12, you're not really at risk for recruiting them away. But at U14, they're eyeballing that, right? They're staring down high school, and that's the time where they're actually thinking about high school, and the parents are actually thinking about high school. And so they're the ones that recommended that it's just these 3 age groups, because we would, maybe we would want, right, the expertise of a high school, a head high school football coach or a staff member that's on a high performing high school football team to lead up our U10s, right? Knowing that anything they said to them about what high school they're going to would go in one ear and out the other, because they're U10s, right? They're 8 and 9. They're not thinking about high school. And so that came from the York University coaching staff, as well as we met with a past president on this. That's why there's only 3. Thanks, Sean. Okay, so Jay, your motion to adjust this. Shelley's got it down, so we need a seconder for the motion. Annette
I'll second.
unmuted. Does that mean Annette? Okay, Sean has his hand up to second. And then all in favor, please use the reaction buttons to raise your hands if you're in favor. If you're not in favor, just let us know and we'll note in the minutes that you're not in favor. And so we'll make that adjustment. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go back to Sean, because Sean, I think you wanted to propose an amendment.
No, that was just adding the other teams. So
Oh,
I'm gonna withdraw that amendment.
okay, no problem. Before we leave the Constitution updates, I'm going to open the floor only for discussion, so I can make a note of it. In order to change the Constitution, you do need to issue, you do need to have a meeting of the members. And so we would have to provide in advance, like we did with these Constitution changes, to the members to take a look and then have the opportunity to come. Annette, would you like to put a motion forward?
Point of order.
Yeah.
We only voted on the amendment. We didn't vote on the actual article change.
Okay.
I know it's redundant, but
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. So can I get a motion from the floor to approve the Constitution Update 3 as it sits amended?
I will, Annette.
I think Annette and Sean, because Sean put his hand up right away. So Annette and Sean. So Annette and Sean motioning and seconding. Everyone in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you so much. That will put this into the Constitution. Thank you so much. And so I was going to invite Annette to issue a motion for the board to draft something. We'd research it first because it sits in other constitutions. Something around recruiting.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to have something in there where no high school football staff are allowed to recruit. while they are helping or volunteering with YRFA, something to that effect. Recruiting's not allowed, period, for their home high school football team if they're in whatever position they hold within the organization.
And I just want to say that this isn't something that would go through today.
No, I realize that, yeah.
Draft it, put it forward to the members, leave it up on the website for people to look at. This is just asking if there's going to be a motion, because you mentioned it, Annette.
Yeah.
For us to go and do that work and bring it back to the members. Melissa and then Mark, go ahead.
I just forgot to lower my hand, Jody.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, no problem. No problem. That's okay.
Sorry that I was late. I was working, but
That's okay.
and I'm kind of late to the game here and joining your meeting, but so this might not be relevant, but
Okay.
is there, when you're talking about stopping children from playing outside of their catchment area at a different high school, has this been broached at the high school level where you're talking to the high schools? Like, okay, so yeah. So for our area, we don't have a football team right now. So.
And Melissa, we we absolutely cannot control where people go to high school. Like, that's not it at all. But we're trying to maintain neutrality on our fields.
Right.
And we're thinking about how can we strengthen the Constitution to make sure that when coaching staff come to our field, they come as lions.
Yeah, and they're not, they don't have ulterior motives.
That's all. It's not, we can't.
No, I understand. I was just trying to look at it from a different, because essentially you're maybe slow it down in the presence of, but if they're gonna do it, there's probably still gonna do it behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, we know. Yeah, you're right. You're right, to your point. Mark, go ahead. And then Michelle.
Yeah, it was to that point exactly, in terms of how it's drafted up. The definition of recruiting should be like a non-compete clause when you leave a job. If you're not recruiting on the field saying, hey, don't play here, come and play at Crothers, it's also as bad in the parking lot as it is on the field. And if I leave a job and I call an old client and say, hey, you know what? We're not at work, we're at the bar having a drink, but you know what? Our company does this, that, and the other. Like, non-competes and those type of things carry over. So when we draft up the legislation or whatever it is for recruiting, it should have a broad scope of recruiting, not formal recruiting, because formal recruiting is not done for 16-year-olds. It's a much softer recruit that's done.
It is.
That steers people, right? So whatever we do, I'm not an expert at it, but I know from the business side of things, those type of non-solicit, non-compete is probably a good starting point.
Thank you very much. I took notes so that I can research it and then draft it for members. Michelle, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate, Melissa, where you came in partway through, it's not that we are trying to prevent our players from going elsewhere. It's that we're trying to prevent the conflict of interest with our coaching staff recruiting our players out of wherever they are. We're not trying to say kids can't play here or there or anywhere. It's purely who is leading our players is where we need to be more conscious. That's all.
Okay, yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I just I just didn't know where you guys started off the conversation, and
Yeah, for sure.
there's definitely some voids in where the kids can play, so there's going to be people moving. But again,
Absolutely.
I honestly would never have even thought that our kids from our area, who I know one is trying to be recruited right now to go to Newmarket, which is over an hour away, would ever be able to play there. So had the coach have not mentioned it, I wouldn't have known it. So yeah, it's an issue, right? Like, it's stopping the kids from our area from even going to Banting and pushing them to put their team together.
That's
So
exactly.
the reason we don't have a team is because they don't have enough kids for it or a teacher to run it. So, okay, moving on.
It's okay. So Annette, can you put a motion forward and then I'll ask for a seconder just for the board to work on this and bring it back to the members? It wouldn't be effective until we had a formal meeting like this and had members vote on it and had quorum, et cetera.
Absolutely. I put a motion forward to the board to look into having a non-soft recruiting clause of some sort after research.
Thank you, Annette. Can I get a seconder on that motion, please?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Michelle. All in favor, please use your reaction buttons to raise your hand so Shelley can count them. And we will take that away.
Oops.
Thank you.
Oops.
Thank you so much. Thanks, peeps. I'm not going to come to these meetings anymore, Annette, because I leave with more work. It's okay. Okay. All right. Now we're going to get to the elections. We have, we're going to use our reaction buttons to vote. If there are two people that run for a position, they will be allotted 5 minutes to speak. There's one vote per family, and only members who are in good standing and without conflict of interest are eligible to run for board positions. That's all standard from our constitution. Last year, we changed our constitution to ensure that we could balance when positions would finish, because that hadn't happened before. And you would end up with 1 year where like 6 people were leaving because everything was happening at the same time. And so we've got a list of positions that looks quite long, but we have recruited some members already. We've been working, talking to people to get them to come to the AGM and run for positions. And we have people that are ending. So just because you accept a term that might be 2 years, you know, people have lives and sometimes you can't fulfill that commitment, and that's okay. And so we have, you know, and then we'll appoint someone for a term. And then when we come to an AGM, we'll have a vote again. All right, so these are available board positions. I'm gonna leave the president to last so I can get through the other ones if that's okay. And then I'll hand the floor over to our vice president to run the vote for president. We have a vacant director, well, to be vacant director of equipment. And that is a 2-year term. Do I have any nominations from the floor? We didn't get any in advance, but do I have any nominations from the floor? If not, it's okay. I just have to ask. That sounds like a hard no. So when we have a situation like this, when we have a director of equipment who's ending, we will spend the next 2 months recruiting from our current cohort of parents to find an equipment director. Because like we can't operate without one. And we know with Winter Academy, we'll see parents. Shelley, can you note for the minutes that there were no nominations from the floor for the director of equipment?
Noted.
Noted.
Thank you. Next, we have director of marketing. We have Melissa here, Melissa Sparks, who I recruited to be our director of marketing. I'm going to ask Michelle to put forward a motion to put Melissa forward because she'd like to run for the director of marketing position. And then after Michelle does that, I will call from the floor to see if there's anyone else who would like to run for it.
I'd like to put forward a motion that we elect Melissa Sparks for our director of marketing.
Do I have any nominations from the floor other than Melissa for director of marketing? Okay. Do I have a seconder for Melissa's nomination?
I'll second that, Jody.
Thank you, Jay. All in favor, please use your reaction buttons to raise your hands. Thank you so much. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. And thanks for the vote of confidence, not knowing half of you don't know who I am. So I appreciate your blind vote. I'm glad you
Get her
trusted
to talk for 5 minutes now.
You want my speech?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, only if you want to, Melissa. You only
I
have
have no speech. Jody.
You only have to speak for 5 minutes, Melissa, if there's another person running for the position. So only if you're comfortable, you can have the floor.
Yeah, I think I just got a claim to the spot, right? So, Jody asked and I said yes. So she's very kind. So I promise to fulfill the position.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jen and Annette, you have your hands up. Are you still voting or do you have questions? I wasn't sure if you had questions. Okay, so you don't. Okay, good. Okay. Are you due, Jen? No? Okay, you're shaking your head. I'll stop. Okay. All right. So that's Director of Marketing. Next, we have Director of Fall Football. Everyone's laughing. We're all shutting down now. It's like, it's too long. Next, we have the Director of Fall Football. And again, I'm going to call for the floor for anyone that might be interested. We did have a parent come forward, but they couldn't be here tonight. Are there any nominations from the floor for Director of Fall Football? Mark?
Is that a question? Can we know who the parent is?
Absolutely. I'm going to say it after. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
I'm totally
Okay.
going to say it after opening the floor to see if there's any nominations from the floor first.
Can I know before I not nominate someone?
Yes.
Is that how it works or no?
You can. I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, if someone, Robert's Rules of Order, if someone here would like to run for the position, they would get it over her because she's not here.
Okay.
But if no one runs for the position tonight, we could acclaim her to the position tomorrow. Okay. So it's a U12 parent. Her name is Antonella Cotule. She is on the board right now as the interim director of fall football. And so she was with us every night at the junior fields. We're trying to get junior parents to participate on the board. She was at the fields Mondays and Wednesdays with us and running home game days with us. So she filled the position this fall. And she was interested in running formally for the position because she could only be appointed to an intern. But she's not here. So if there are any nominations from the floor, please let me know. Hard no. Okay. Point taken. I will follow up with Antonella tomorrow. She sends her regrets for not being able to be here. She had to work. Next, we have Director of Sponsorship. And I am going to ask for a motion because Cassandra has come forward before the AGM to run for the position. So I'll ask for a motion from one of our board members or someone in attendance to support her nomination to the position. Michelle, thank you so much. And then I will call to the floor to see if there's anybody else who would like to run for Director of Sponsorship. Michelle, is that you? You have your hand up.
Oh, sorry.
No. Michelle's like, nope.
Nope, I'm good. I'm just nominating Cassandra to the Director of Sponsorship.
All right. Seeing as there are no other nominations from the floor, can I get a seconder for Michelle's motion? Annette, thank you so much. And now all in favor, please use your reaction buttons to raise your hands. Thank you so much. Welcome, Cassandra.
Thanks, guys. Got a lot to learn, but I'm willing to do it. I can't wait to jump right in.
Thank you so much. We save everything, so there's lots of stuff for you to use. Everything this past year that worked really well. All right, let's move forward to the registrar position. We did have someone come forward who was filling the role, who would like to run for it again before the AGM. So I will ask for a motion to support Shelley's nomination to the registrar position, Shelley Wilkinson, and then I will call to the floor for other people who might want to do the role as well. So can I get a motion from the floor to support Shelley's nomination to the registrar position? So I'm going to say Mark, because you made movements, so you went up to the top. And then can I get us, oh, I'm not going to ask for a seconder yet. I'm going to ask for anyone from the floor who may be interested in running for the registrar position. I'll call to the floor for nominations. Hard no. Can I get a seconder for Mark's motion? Thank you, Annette. All in favor of Shelley being acclaimed to the registrar position, please raise your hands. Thank you so much. Thanks, Shelley. Thought you could get away from ramp, but you can't. It's in your nightmares. It's in mine. Okay. I will always call for the treasurer position. Our constitution does require our treasurer to be an accountant of some sort. So I will call to the floor. Michelle, you have your hand up. Are you nominating yourself for treasurer?
I don't know what's happening. Everyone put their hand up, but then everybody's hands immediately went away except for mine. So I apologize.
No, it's okay. I just didn't know. So I'm going to call to the floor for an accountant who would like to be treasurer. One of the things that the board will really need to focus on the first quarter of this year, I think Winter Academy will be a good opportunity because there will be parents there and they're just waiting. So they're ripe for conversation. We really need to find a parent that can take over this position. There's 3 of us running it right now, and it would be best if there was a separate accountant running the position. All right, so Shelley, just if you could note for the minutes that we did a call to the floor for the treasurer position, and there was no one present and no one put their name forward in advance. And so the board will commit to recruiting the first quarter because we need a treasurer. All right, Michelle, I'm handing it over to you for the president vote.
Thanks, Jody. If I can get a motion from the floor to put forward Jody as our nominated to president for our next term. Mike Forte is nodding his head, so we'll say that Mike has nominated Jody. Is there anyone else who is in the position to be nominated rather, for the president's position? Also a hard no. Can I have a seconder, please? Do I have anyone?
Second, Michelle.
Thanks, Jay. All right. And then all in favor, please use your reaction button to raise your hand. Great. Okay. So, Jody, welcome back.
I want it noted, I would like it noted in the minutes for the AGM that it's very critical for the board in 2022 to recruit from inside the board who will be the next president. Because Hagen's not like, and I'm happy to onboard them to like the history, and then you make it your own, of course. It's Hagen's in university. And so there may be parents of younger kids that want to come forward and bring their vision to the club. And that has to be one of our priorities, the treasurer position, but also continuity for the president position. Okay.
I don't know why my hand's up.
We're now going to move to all other business. This is where I'll open the floor for anything that anyone wants to raise, whether it's a concern or whatnot. I will open the floor for that first, and then we are going to put forward a member for lifetime membership. I'm opening the floor. Is there anything that anybody wants to raise that should be discussed at the annual general meeting? Hard no. Okay. I'm going to ask for a motion from the floor to grant Mike Fortier lifetime membership to the York Region Football Association. Michelle, thank you for your motion. Can I get a seconder, please? Mark Bandato, thank you so much. Mike, you're stuck with us. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. For those of you who aren't familiar, lifetime members don't have to be voted. You don't have to have someone every year to be voted in as a lifetime member, but our categories of membership are quite strict. And when you have volunteers that have given back so much to the club, a way to keep them with the club and make sure that they're able to come to AGMs and participate is to grant them lifetime membership. And so we have 3 lifetime members now: Annette, who's here, Dave Lovegrove, and now Mike Fortier. And so you're stuck with us, Mike. All right. I don't have any closing remarks. I don't know why I made this slide. I don't have any closing remarks. I just want to thank everybody for continuing to support the club. I know that the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult, but I appreciate every single one of you and what you bring to our club. I will ask for a motion from the floor to adjourn the annual general meeting. Mark, thank you so much. Can I get a seconder on that motion? Jen, thank you so much. Jen Fortier. And I think that's it. I don't have to have an all in favor. It's an agreement. Annette, if you want to hang back, I know you want to chat with me, but that ends the annual general meeting. I'm going to stop the recording now and thank everybody for coming.
Have a good night. Everybody.
Annette, you're on mute.
I'm on mute, sorry. It's just the board now, right?
It's just the board now. Yeah.
Okay, what's happening to Mike? Why is he not doing equipment anymore?
Well, I think Mike's just done. So Mike,
Burnt out?
Go ahead.
done,
You can
right?
talk.
Like you're done.
It's just taking some time off with the kids going into university, the twins. I'm trying to help them out a lot. And then my health this last year has just been up and down. So I'm just taking a year to recruit and make sure I get all the kids into university and stuff. And then they voted me in to say I'll come back in a year.
Well, okay.
And I'm still
so
helping out.
What kind of commitments involve for every weekend in the summer? For equipment, like once everything's up and running is what I'm getting at.
No,
Would I have to be at every weekend? Like,
The
no.
hardest part's just at the beginning. So
And
the
that-
fittings.
Yeah.
And then we have so many always over the next few weeks are just showing up late all the time. Emails back and forth with the suppliers and stuff if we're short on this or that.
okay,
This year was just honestly crazy because we're over the past bit trying to get our research done and everything else. So for last year, this year is a little bit better because I'm already up on the ball with it, so it's there. I've already
Okay.
said if we found someone else new that come in, I'd still be there to help as much as possible.
okay,
So if there's fittings and stuff and I know I can make it, I'm showing up. If it's adding me to emails a little bit, just so I can say, yeah, this is what we've done so far.
okay.
Yeah, it's just pretty much
I think, Mike, to your point, the commitments are really, I'll give you an example, Annette. We had to get the helmets ready for pickup, but Mike wasn't at the bin alone. It was
Okay.
myself and Mike and Shelley and Jay and Michelle Buckridge and it took us 2 hours, but we sorted all the helmets and we put them in sizes and by make, and then it was done.
Yeah.
It's a team effort, right? We're trying to do it.
And
Okay.
then when it comes to fittings and stuff, we normally,
Have
make
coaches?
sure that the coaches, who's ever doing their age group, really
Yes.
should be there and be helping fit with helmets, fit with shoulder pads. There's some of them that should be doing it as well.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I would be happy to put my name forward for that position.
I would, as president, the Constitution allows me to appoint directors. I would like to appoint Annette, Director of Equipment, as of January 1st. Oh, look, everyone agrees.
Oh, I thought she was putting her hand up. No, wait, stop.
No.
No.
She's giving you the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
God, board meetings are gonna be even crazier now.
I love it. I love it.
My God.
I can still be your assistant for most of it. It's just
And whenever you want to come back, it's open for you, hun.
Oh, Annette, thank
5-6 years. I'll come back.
I'll be old and gray by then.
I'm already
you.
there.
Already gray.
Well, I am too. It's called help. Okay, that's awesome. I just needed some clarification on what was involved. And I mean, I don't mind being most weekends, but I like to have my cottage weekends in the summer. That's the thing.
No, you don't have
That's no
to.
problem.
The equipment stuff is really about the fittings and then the pickups. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really what it is. And then it's not, and even, there was certainly no expectation that Mike was doing all the stragglers, that Mike was doing all the,
Yeah, I don't even mind doing like that kind of stuff, but yeah.
we were pretty savage this year.
And that
Someone
was done
10
during
minutes
the week.
after we shut down and we were like, we are shut down. Like, sorry, but we were open for 2 hours and you didn't show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the fittings at the end, they were, okay, we'll do Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday. Here's your dates to show up. Here's your times to show up. Do it.
Yeah.
So
and
we
if you
didn't
don't
do a lot of
that's
stuff on the
setup.
weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, spring will go a lot smoother. There'll be a lot less fitting, like extra fittings. It looked like it was a ton because we were taking every player we could. But yeah, I think it'll be a lot less come
Okay.
spring.
Perfect.
So now that Annette's officially on the board,
Uh-oh.
say something to everyone who's here. The Ministry of Sport is mandating vaccination for 12 to 17.
We have it in hockey already, so
Yeah.
it's not, I'm resigning my hockey position. Not resigning, I'm not renewing for another term in May for that, so.
Yeah.
I figure I'll have time to give to this board now.
You're so great in that.
Good.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you.
Fun. You guys seem like
We
fun.
really appreciate you. All
I
right,
missed
peeps.
it. I realized how much I missed it.
Really?
Yeah,
Was it the road trip that we took?
it was definitely our road trip.
I mean, that was a really good playlist we had going. We were
That was really good.
listening
It was,
and it was
lots-
really
lots-
good.
Lots of fun. It didn't seem like we went that far. Like it
I
went
know.
by quick,
We
really
sang the
quick.
whole way.
It's fun.
Woodstock's
We should ask
far.
Shelley if they're still meeting Thursday for drinks.
Yeah, she could hear you talk.
Are you guys still meeting Thursday for drinks?
I want to meet Thursday for drinks.
See, so you can still go.
As long as you can pick up, sorry.
Who is available to meet Thursday for drinks?
Michael is.
Me, you, and Warren, I think.
That's
Anybody
it.
new gonna come?
Is that it? I think that's it. Shelley and Jay, are you available Thursday? And if I need to find a night where everyone's available, like in between Christmas and New Year's, I can do that too. I know we're getting close to Christmas.
I'm available.
From now until Boxing Day is a very bad
Okay.
time of year for me. I'm gonna be out for work.
Okay. So
Kelly says she's good though.
do we want to try and do it when we can get the whole board together?
Be better.
I know. Okay,
Sorry, if I'm invited, I'm available.
you're
You're
invited.
invited now. You're part of the board now.
You're part of the board now. But I also want us to try and get everyone together. So why don't we postpone it until after Christmas, and we'll do between Boxing Day and New Year's. We'll pick a night and I'll start planning it now, like on I'm gonna add Annette to the group chat and Melissa, because we run everything by the group chat. That's
I
how
love
it
it.
works.
I love it. My phone is never far away.
I love it. Perfect.
Awesome.
And then I'll start polling in there for a date so we can all hold it now. And I won't do it on cornhole night, Jen. And
That's Thursdays.
Thursday, so it won't be a Thursday and it won't be a Monday because Monday is darts.
I got 2 weeks off for darts after next Monday, so
Yeah,
Okay,
after
perfect.
Christmas.
Okay, so it could be, okay, so I'll start polling in the group chat. And yes, absolutely, Shelley. Hold on, do I have Jay's number?
I thought
You
Jay
have
was
Shelley's
already
number. It's the same thing.
But Shelley got into the board chat already.
Okay, I have to ask a really redundant question now. How
Yeah.
do you get your first and last name on the Zoom meeting?
So you go to the 3 little blue buttons at the top right corner of your picture, and you click on those 3 little white buttons and you click rename, and then you type in Annette Bassos.
Okay, but
Or in that, just right click on your picture on the video and at the bottom of the drop down menu, it says rename.
okay, there we
Who's
go.
rename?
Cool.
You guys are all smart. I had to Google that.
I'm just saying that I didn't change mine because I couldn't figure it out either.
I
And
couldn't
like
figure it out, so
the-
I just got Annette on there and I texted Jody and I'm like, I can't figure out how to put my last name and what I am.
Jen, I do my whole job by Google.
We would have been Zoe and her headshot. So like.
Oh my gosh.
I really
Okay.
appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much.
Well, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas,
Christmas.
everybody.
Take
Big
care, guys.
hug. Lots of love to you all. May you have
Lots
an
of love.
amazing Christmas.
Yes, we'll see you after
And
Christmas.
I hope Santa's good to everybody, even if it's not in material things.
Absolutely. Health,
Mhm.
happiness to everybody. But we'll talk on the group chat.
Okay, group chat, how is that done? WhatsApp?
WhatsApp. We have a
Yep.
WhatsApp group chat we're going to add you to.
So I have to download that app, right?
Yep.
You do.
Okay, I'll do it now. Cool.
That's my cat. I'm sorry. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I have